Well, welcome back. Welcome to episode 6 of How to Make Your Own Video Game with Missile Command. So we're going to finish up our drawing program today. We're going to start by doing a code review. So let me go ahead and make this window a little bit bigger. We're going to start with a code review and some cleanup. I'm going to get rid of this comment, right? This is we don't normally read. We're doing from tkinter import everything. So let's do a Control W, which selects that. Control W again, Control W again, and Control W selects the whole word. Don't do Control W one more time, you get the whole program and you delete everything. But you can do Control W until you get the line, hit the delete key, it's gone. So first thing we did is we imported random and math and then the tkinter to get the canvas and all the widgets that we're using. Before I complete this code review, I want to show you a couple of tricks. In Python, in PyCharms, you see how there's this explode, expand, and close button? Well, if you go to code, folding, you can do an expand all or a collapse all. Actually, it's pretty easy to remember. Expand is control and then on the number pad on your keyboard, not the main keyboard, but the number pad on the right, you do a plus sign and that expands it. And then a control number pad minus sign collapses it. If you hold the shift key down, it will do everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit control shift minus, and that will collapse everything in what the code thing calls folding. And so everything's collapsed. So you can see here, I've got all my input functions. And I can recollapse those. So we did 3 imports. We created a window. We set the geometry on the window. We set the background on the canvas to black. We packed the canvas into the window, filling both X and Y, and making the canvas size change size if the window changes size. We then added a frame into the canvas, made it gray, packed it at the top, made an array of colors, an array that we're going to fill up with all the objects we draw so we can undo. And how to draw, we used to use. We're not using it anymore. So I'm going to hit Control W a couple times and delete. We don't need that anymore. Now, all of our functions are collapsed, so the program's pretty short. Let's come back to the functions in a minute. Into the top frame, we added a button called clear that's going to call a command clear screen. We did an undo button that is going to call the command undo to undo what we last drew. Set the background to gray on that as well. And then we're going to put in an entry form for the angle, the distance, the inside loop, the outside loop, and how much to increment by and how many times you want to increment. Those are our inputs for our drawing function. And then we bound button 1 to actually click the button to hit draw. And then we have our functions. Move in direction. D is the function that we wrote. That's a debug button. This is the function we wrote to give me a second point from the first point, moving a distance D dist at angle. This is our, sorry, I can use the keystroke instead of the little button. It's a little bit easier. So I do a control plus sign. So here is our draw event. It has a global undo. We're going to keep track of what we did in that variable. We get the point we clicked at. We pick a random color. We decide we make an empty array to put all the lines in as we draw them. We get the angle from the widget, the angle widget. We get the distance from the distance widget. We get the inner count from the inner count widget, the outer count from the outer count widget, increment count from the increment count widget, increment distance from the increment by variable that's in the canvas, the widget. And then we start a loop. We're going to do the loop for X number of increment counts. And at the end, we're going to take all the lines that we drew and append them to my undo. Now, the way this works is this collapses all the for loops as well. So the outer one is the increment count. And so we're incrementing D increment count times. And then inside, there's a loop, which is called the outer loop, which goes over the outer count. And it is going to change the angle after it does the inner loop. The inner loop is here, where we get a new point from the current XY point, draw the line, append it to the lines drawn array to remember it, set the next point to the current point, change the angle, and loop around. So that's our loop function. Pretty straightforward. And then we have a clear function that deletes everything on the canvas. We have an undo function that if there is anything to undo, the length of the array is greater than 0. Then for everything that's in the last element of the undo function, we delete it. Pretty simple. we defined a entry that allows us to just tell me where you want to put it, the value of text you want to use in the default value, and it does all the labeling, the entry, the packing, and the inserting of the default value, and returns our entry button. And so that's our code. What I want to do right now is I want to add one little function that's going to be quite useful. I'm going to hit Control D down here, and I'm going to say width string. And it's going to be entering the top frame, and it's going to be width. And I'm going to default it to 1 because we're doing everything with the default line width is 1. So now in the drawing program, right, when we get all this other stuff, we're going to duplicate this line. We're going to say width. In this case, I don't need to use a float. I'll use an integer. And this is width string. So now I have the ability to enter a width. It gets put into this variable width. And when I draw the line, I can say width equals width. This is the argument for this function, and this width is being passed in from this variable. So when we do that, let's see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and move my window back up here. So we added the width inside the drawing function. We added the width at the bottom in an entry form. And when I run this thing, let's see what I want to do. Let's go a distance. Let's do 4. Let's go distance of 100. 4 times. And I'm not going to do an outer loop. 1, and I'm not going to increment by, I'll just do 1. So I'm going to get, this is just going to give me a box. So I'm going to draw a box. But I also have a width function here. What if I change the width to 20? Oh, look at that. I got a width of 20 pixel line, but the corners look a little funny. Let's take a look at why the corners look funny. So when we're drawing a line, and then we're turning the corner and moving to another line. And so there's 3 dots. So each line has a beginning and ending, and it's got a width right now of 1. And we change that width from 1 to a large number like 20. You see we have that notch at the corner. It's a little worse on a square because they're actually a different angle, right? But so we get these notch on the corner. And the notch on the corner, again, the line's between 2 points, but it's got a flat end. Now it turns out there's an end style on a line. In this case, it's flat. But you can also use round, in which case it ends the line with a semicircle. And so if you apply that to our lines, we'll get a much cleaner drawing. So let's give that a try. So to change the line style in our program, we go back to the draw function here where we're drawing the width and setting the color and the width. And we just say that, in this case, it's called cap style. It even knows, it brings it up. Cap style equals round. So let's give that a try. We run our program, change this to inner loop of 4 at 100, and we'll see what happens. Change the outer loop to 1, and this to 1, and this to 20. And now, oh, look, we get very nice corners. So if we repeat this loop 3 times, it looks pretty sweet. And if we do something like 30, 8 times with 8 outer loops, incrementing by 10, 8 times with a width of 20, ooh, it's a little too wide. Let's say width of 5. Something a little wider than that. Let's say 8. We'll clear everything. Clear. A little bit. Well, that's okay. I think I'm incrementing by, that's all right. It's okay. So that's nice. I mean, I can add the line width and make it as large as 10. But the problem is everything is the same color. So there's 2 things I want to do. I want to clean up, and I'm going to move all these buttons out of the canvas because they're getting in our way, and we've got another place we can put them. And I'll show you how to do that. It'll take 2 seconds. And then I want to add the ability to change when we're picking the color. Right now, we use the same color for everything we draw. So let's go ahead and try changing that. So the first thing I'm going to do in our code here is up at the top, I'm going to move the frame from the canvas to the window. And I'll show you why. So I'm going to grab these 2 lines, and I'm going to do Shift Control Up arrow, move them up next to the window. So I'm putting the frame in the window instead of inside the canvas. You can see it's sitting here in the canvas. The other thing which I had is I was doing everything gray because having this white on top of the black background was bothering me. But I'm going to do the following. I'm going to do edit, and I'm going to be able to do find and replace. This is pretty slick. So I'm going to find this string, comma, BG gray, where I set everything to gray, and I'm going to replace it. And then it finds where it was up before. I'm going to replace that. Found it here. I'm going to replace that. Found it down here. I'm going to replace that. Found it down here. I'm going to replace that. And so I removed all the color grays. So let's see what that itself just did. So I restart the program. Oh, look at that. Instead of being down in the canvas, all the buttons are up here inside the white background of the window. So that's kind of nice. So if I now change my wire width to, let's say, 5, that's pretty sweet. Let's change it to 10 to be a little wider. Not bad, right? That's quite different than what we get when we draw with 1. They're very unique. But let's go ahead and add a widget to allow me to pick where I'm going to change the color. Do I change the color in every shape, every line, every time I get a different size? So to do that, we need to add to the canvas, to the top frame, another button, which is called color when or color where. And it wants to be a combo box. Combo box. I don't see anything. If I were to type a button, look, it tells me there's a button in TK Enter that I can play. I can play a radio button. I can play a checkbox, a check button. But I don't have a combo box. So this is what you do when you want something you don't know how to do it. You go to Google. How do I add a combo box in TK Enter? You have to tell it where because there's lots of programming languages out there. Look at this, TK Enter combo box. And it's got some code down here to tell us how to do it. The first thing you'll notice is that from TK Enter, we have to import TTK. And then we go down here and it's TTK that has a combo box. So let's try that. So we're going to go back here and we're going to say, so from TK Enter, import TTK. Oh, look, it knows what it is. It's right there. So now we have TTK. I can go back down to the bottom of my program and I could say TTK dot combo box. Look at that. It's right there. And then it's going to tell me what I need to do. First thing I know, I have to tell it where to put it. So I'm going to put it in the top frame. The other options that we have are to set the values that we want to have in the box. I'll show you how this works. So we want to decide, so we can, our values are going to be color each line, color each shape, color each size, or color for each click. So the same. So what this means is every click's going to have the same colors. When we change the size, we'll change the color, or when we change the shape, we'll change the color, or we'll change the color every time we change a line. So let's go ahead and see if this works. So I'll close this guy and we'll hit run. Invalid syntax. Oh, I forgot to bind it. Color where dot bind in the top frame. Oh, bind, sorry, side left. We always tacking everything in from the left. Let's see if that's what it's complaining about. Line 78, canvas bind. I don't know why I was complaining about that, but let's see. Maybe I forgot. Oh, I forgot to close this line. So we have to give it the values. Let me see what else I missed. Oh, I'd like to make it not be too wide. So I'm going to set the width. Well, let's try it without it. We'll set the width if we need to. So I forgot to close this box, which is why I got upset with the next line. And I forgot to bind it. So I put the binding in, and I think we're good. I'm not sure why. It's highly unexpected arguments. Bind. I thought we did that. Bind. Oh, it's not bind. It's pack. My bad. I have to pack it in. Pack side left. Now that should stop complaining. PyCharms does a very nice job. When it's highlighting like that, it ain't going to run. So let's see. There we go. we have a pop-up box. Line, shape, size, and click. I can change it. Well, the thing is, it didn't default. We really want to set a default. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to say color where, and we're going to set the button, set it to click, which is one of the options on the list. And so now when we run the program, we have a combo box that says click. Why is it there? Let's put a label in front of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to set color label equals a label. We've done labels before. There's one here. Let me scroll up a bit. There's one here at the top. Actually, we did labels inside this function, where and the text value. So we're going to do a label here. We're going to do this in top frame. And the text is going to equal color each. And then we're going to do a color label dot pack side equals left. And we're going to run that. So now there should be a label telling us, oh, color each click, color each size, color each shape, color each line. Now we're going to modify the code to use these values. But notice this is really long. That's too long for me. So when I create this combo box, I'm going to set the width to something small, like 6. So now when I close this and start it over again, that's nice. I got a nice little box on the end. So let's use this now when we're drawing. So what we're going to do is in the drawing program, what we're doing right now is we're picking a random color at the beginning. So after you click, we pick a random color and we use that random color on every single line. Well, what we want to do now is we want to say, hey, if, and I believe we call it color what? Color where, if color where dot get, so we're getting the value of color where, is equal to line, then I'm going to take this color function, duplicate it, and with a Control-Shift down arrow, move it down to right here. So if color where is line, I'm going to pick the color every time I change a line. Let's see what that does. So what happens right now, we're only looking at this for one function. It doesn't matter what click. So if I click, I get all the same colors. If I change it to line, then every single line is a different color. Now that's pretty sweet. That's not bad, right? That's pretty sweet. But I also have the option to color every size, or every shape a different color instead of every line, right? If I make this one box, outer loop is 8, outer loop is 1, increment by 1, right? Then I get every shape in the line is a random color, but I could also draw all the shapes the same color. So if I take this code and I grab these 2 lines and say duplicate, well, that didn't work. Let's see if I grab the whole line, if it works. So if I grab these 2 lines and I say duplicate, it worked, but it didn't do what I expected. Let's do this, Control W. So both lines are selected. Now Control D for duplicate. And now let's move this up by holding Control-Shift up arrow into the location between the outer loop and the inner loop, and this is shape. So this outer loop is completing, this one completes the shape, and then this is repeating the shapes. And so each shape is going to get its own color. So let's try that. So now, if I hit click, I get everything one color. If I change it to every line gets its own color, now I can also change it to every shape gets its own color. So let's do 2 shapes. Color here, increment only once. clear everything, what you see is that each shape that I draw, okay, and I can do 3 outers or 4 outers, right? Each one gets a different color. They're random, so they may be the same, right? So that's coloring each shape. We also have the option of coloring each size. So if we go back here and we take these 2 lines, and I hit Control W till I get them, and then I can do a Control Duplicate, and I move these 2 lines up until I'm inside the increment loop. And now this is going to be for each size. So if I'm coloring for each size, I want to pick a color every time I change the size. If I'm doing it for every shape, I want to change every time I repeat the shape. So now let's see what happens. So we're going to run this program, and click, I get the same color. The next one from click is size. Every size changes a different color. So let's do this. Let's say outer is only 2. And so every shape is the same color. It goes purple to green and then orange and whatever, but each size is a different color. And if I change this guy, then every shape is a different color. This is a different shape from that. The 2 in the middle happen to be the same. Let's hit undo here. We'll show what I mean. So this is red, this is green, this is orange, this is red. So now every shape is changing color. And the last option we have is every single line is going to change colors, and it's just lots and lots of lines. So with what we have now, let's go back to 8, 8. I'm going to change this to increment by size, and I am going to clear my screen, and that's pretty nice, but I'm thinking it's going to be very nice if I do that. Wow. Okay, that's a wow. That's a wow, wow. Wow. That's pretty sweet. This might even be better at 15. Let's try that. So remember, that's why we wanted that undo button. We can do it until we're happy with it. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Now remember, you can full screen this bad boy and have some fun. Okay? So you've got the ability to undo. You've got the ability to change how it's drawing. If I change every line, it's going to be just a colored mismatch. If I change every shape, it's going to have a lot more colors in the shapes. And if I change every single line that I draw, it gets, oh, I already did that one. Every single line. And then the last one is every size or every click. Now it's all the same color. This is less interesting, of course. That's why you want to be able to change the colors. This versus this, impressive. So we did some cleanup. We moved all the widgets up out of the canvas, so we have a clean canvas for screen captures or taking pictures of your beautiful drawings. We have some complexity with the inner and outer loops, and we have the width, and we have the ability to change how it's colored. And so that's kind of what we wanted to do in today's video.